For every winner, there is also a second best. When it comes to military hardware, there are plenty of designs that were very good, very innovative, and likely would have been more than up to the role required, but there was simply something just a little better. This is certainly the case of the Northrop and McDonnell Douglas YF-23, a fifth-generation stealth fighter designed for the United States Air Force. This aircraft has a huge fan base, and many consider it a better stealth fighter than the F-22 Raptor. So why then did the US Air Force decide to pass on it? And can we possibly see its comeback? Let's find out. During the Cold War's crescendo in the 1980s, the US was engaged in a weapons development race with the soon-to-collapse Soviet Union. Despite the recent development and production of fourth-generation fighters like the F-14, F-15, and F-16, the US feared the Soviets' ability to produce high-quality aircraft. Accordingly, the US was urgent to stay ahead of the curve and to beat the Soviets in fielding the world's first fifth-generation fighter. The culmination of this urgency was the Advanced Tactical Fighter (ATF) program, which attracted 2 bids. The first team was composed of Lockheed, Boeing, and General Dynamics and entered the competition with the YF-22. The second team, composed of Northrop Grumman and McDonnell Douglas, presented the YF-23. To a great degree, the success of either of the ATF competitors was overdetermined. The Soviet Union disappeared during the course of the competition, and the major European aerospace powers largely declined to compete on the same terrain. Either the F-22 or the F-23 would become the finest fighter of the early 21st century. The only question was which aircraft would win the investment of Department of Defense, and each plane had its advantages. The YF-23's unique design was quite distinct from the YF-22, and it has been described as having an almost pancake-like airframe structure with blended wing elements. Its diamond-shaped wings were meant to reduce aerodynamic drag at transonic speeds. Only 2 YF-23 prototypes were ever built. The first prototype was nicknamed the Black Widow II by the Northrop Grumman team because of its sleek black paint. The aircraft packed a pair of Pratt & Whitney YF-119 PW100 engines that gave the fighter to supercruise at Mach 1.43, or about 1,088 miles per hour, meaning that it could maintain that airspeed without the use of its afterburners. The second YF-23 prototype was nicknamed the Grey Ghost, again because of its characteristic paint, used General Electric YF-120 engines that gave the aircraft a speed boost, allowing it to hit Mach 1.6, or about 1,217 miles per hour, in supercruise. All in all, the fighter could achieve a top speed of approximately Mach 2, or about 1,522 miles per hour. In comparison, the YF-22 competitor achieved Mach 1.58, or about 1,202 miles per hour, in supercruise. Besides that, the Northrop designs had a longer range and a higher ceiling, 2,796 miles maximum range, and a ceiling of 65,000 feet. On the other hand, the YF-22 had a range of 2,000 miles and a ceiling of 50,000 feet. But Lockheed Martin did a much better job marketing the aircraft, highlighting its high G capabilities and maneuverability. The YF-23 prototype planes were both fast and stealthy. The fighter's low profile and classified skin material on the airframe was said to be nearly 100% undetectable by nearly any radar system of the period. The supercruise function allowed the fighter to achieve sustained supersonic flight without the use of the afterburner. The designs called for the YF-23 to be armed with a fixed 20mm M61 Vulcan, while internal bays could house 4 AIM-7 Sparrow or AIM-120 AMRAAM medium-range air-to-air missiles, as well as a pair of AIM-9 short-range missiles. It took the Air Force years of flight testing, but in the end, the futuristic YF-23 lost to the YF-22, which is still flying today as the F-22A Raptor. As Dave Majumdar pointed out several years ago, political and bureaucratic factors contributed to the selection of the F-22. Fed up with Northrop and McDonnell Douglas in the wake of the B-2 and A-12 projects, the Pentagon preferred Lockheed. The U.S. Navy disliked the F-23 for idiosyncratic reasons and hoped it would get a crack at a heavily modified F-22. For its part, the Air Force preferred the gaudy maneuverability of the Raptor, which gave it an advantage in nearly every potential combat situation. Had the ATF competition not taken place coincident with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the YF-23 might have stood a chance for life. Some of its characteristics were sufficiently advanced that they could have drawn further attention and investment. Moreover, building the F-23 alongside the F-22 could have been justified on grounds of maintaining the health of the U.S. defense industrial base. As it was, the selection of the Lockheed aircraft undoubtedly contributed to the decision to consolidate Boeing and McDonnell Douglas. Nevertheless, nearly a quarter-century after losing the ATF bid, the YF-23 was reportedly almost revived when an American ally needed an advanced fighter to face a rising threat. The Japanese military has had a long love affair with stealth fighter jets. For years, Tokyo tried to get Congress to approve a foreign military sale of the F-22 Raptor. With the threat of North Korea and China, the Japanese Air Force wanted to bolster its air superiority capabilities. Congress eventually decided not to go forward with such a sale for two reasons. First, to ensure that the stealth fighter jet's classified technology remained secure. Second, to ensure that the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific remained constant. China didn't present the same national security threat it does today, and the global war on terror was demanding the Pentagon's and Congress's attention. As such, the Japanese Air Force moved ahead with its own plans for a stealth fighter jet. Eventually, Tokyo entered the F-35 Joint Fighter Program and today operates both F-35A and F-35B Lightning II fighter jets. But the Japanese military is still looking for another stealth aircraft for the future and has been soliciting foreign partners for help in developing the FX program, which Japan hopes will become the island nation's first domestically developed stealth fighter jet. Northrop Grumman has shown active interest in being part of such a program, even with an updated version of the YF-23, with reports mentioning this possibility on and off throughout the years. In 2018, Tokyo's inquiries to potential partners in its FX stealth fighter program reportedly received an enthusiastic response from Northrop Grumman, Sebastian Roblin reported back in 2018. While Northrop might seek to revive the YF-23, it is more like that it would offer unique aspects of the airframe and engine design, which might then be integrated with new or existing Japanese technologies. Why? Because certain elements of the YF-23, which is a 30-year-old airframe, are now outdated, particularly the radar-absorbent material coatings and the avionics, two technologies that have advanced significantly since the 1990s. Still, the Japanese Self-Defense Force might prefer to start with the basis of an existing and tested airframe and subsequently improve upon it instead of starting from scratch, Roblin reported years back. Besides that, in late 2023, Japan's foreign and defense ministers signed a historic defense agreement with Britain and Italy to jointly develop a sixth-generation fighter jet. Following the signing, Japan's Minister of Defense Kihara Minoru shared his conviction that the partnership brings together the best technologies from Japan, the United Kingdom, and Italy to strengthening deterrence in the face of the most challenging and complex security environment since World War II. The goal is to deploy a sixth-generation fighter by 2035. Most likely, Japan will develop the airframe, and European colleagues will integrate advanced technologies into it. It is also possible that this airframe will be the YF-23. London, for example, anticipates that the project will harness and integrate cutting-edge technologies, thereby making the fighter one of the world's most advanced, interoperable, adaptable, and connected fighter jets in service globally. It will be a supersonic stealth fighter with advanced sensors that deploys next-generation artificial intelligence technology. Capable of unmanned flight and armed with hypersonic weapons, the jet will boast a powerful radar that can provide 10,000 times more data than current systems, giving a battle-winning advantage. The YF-23 was a special airplane, capable of stealth and supercruise. Although lost to F-22, the fighter was ahead of its time because when designed, the US Air Force had an idea of what air combat would look like in the future. And now Japan could be on the verge of giving the YF-23 a second chance to prove itself, or at least providing some inspiration.